Welcome to a video lesson all about finding percent of a number. Last video we were estimating, now we're going to actually be finding percents of numbers, not just an approximation. It's lesson 2.7, make sure you have your notebook and your notes that you got in class. The table of contents is going to be filled out on page 41. Is the title of the lesson. You can use this percent symbol, percent of a number. Go ahead, fill that in. Your note sheet will need to just be trimmed down at the end to have it fit. There's nothing fancy about this one, no folding. So the first part of your notes is the basic direction of what we're going to need to do when we're finding percent of a number. And that is to change the percent to a decimal. And we learned all about that in our previous lessons. And then we're going to multiply. That's basically it today, but I'm going to give you a strategy to help you solve these problems called the skeleton. Just like the skeleton provides you with structure and support, this is a graphic organizer that you can use for any percent problem, not just finding percent of a number. It's going to be very simple today, but I'm showing you this for when we get to percent problems. We can pull this strategy out and use the skeleton to help us set up our problem. And so we have to add some things to this skeleton, and it starts out with 3 boxes. The first box is always going to be the percent. Then you have the word of. The second box is going to be talking about a total. I want you to write that underneath that box. Then we have the word is, and then we have this box over here. That's going to talk about a part. So the percent of a number, or the total, is, and then our answer. A couple more symbols. This of is going to stand for multiplication. I want you to make sure you have that symbol on your paper. This is also going to stand for the equal sign. Okay. The last piece you need to realize is that the percent, like our directions, we are going to write that as a decimal before we multiply and find our answer. So now we're going to try some examples and see what this is all about using the skeleton. The question is, what is 15% of 300? Notice they have the word of, we have a percent, and we have a total that we're finding a percentage of. So our skeleton, I want you to draw that. So 1 box percent, and we're going to have to change it to a decimal. Of, and then we have our total is, our answer is going to be the part. Now let's fill in our numbers. We have 15%, and that's going to be 0 and 15 hundredths. Remember, we have to move the decimal point over 2 places. So that is the decimal we're going to be dealing with. The total is 300. This of means multiply. So we're literally going to multiply this decimal times the 300. And we will get our answer or our part. So let's go ahead and do that. 315 hundredths. Remember, when we're multiplying decimals, we don't need to worry about the decimal point until the end. So we have 1500, and then the 0, 0, and 3 are going to be the next level down. We're going to add these up, and we get 4,500. Now we look at the decimal place. There are 2 decimal point places. So we need 2 decimal point places in our answer, and we have 45 is our part. That is our answer to our problem. 15% of 300 is 45. You will get an answer that's smaller than 300. Our next example deals with a percent that is above 100. Our first example dealt with a percent that was between 1 and 100%. You'll always get a answer that when you're finding percent of a number and it's in that range, it'll be smaller. That's not the case when it's above 100%. So let's do this example and you'll see what I mean. So find 145% of, that means multiply, 320, that's our total. We want to mark up our problem, just like I've done. And now let's set up the skeleton. So here is our percent of the total is our answer, which is the part today. So let's plug in our numbers. We have 145% of 320. Now, of means multiply. We have to next change this to a decimal. We're going to move the decimal point from where it is behind the 5 2 places to the left, and now we have 1 and 45 hundredths. That is what we're going to multiply with 320. So 320, 1, 4, 5. I know the decimal point's right here, but I'm going to multiply like it's not there. So we have 5 times 0, 2 times 5, and then we have 16 when we have 3 times 5 and a 1. Now I'm going to go over to the 4, and I'm going to multiply the 4 times all of the digits above. I have 0. Notice I'm starting in line with that 4. 4 times 2, 8. 3 times 4, 12. Remember, I don't need to add that 1. That was for the 5. Our last one is a 1. We're going to have a 0, a 2, and a 3. When we add these up, we will get 14, 2 and 2 and 2 is 6, and 4. We get 4, 6, 4, 0, 0. Now we got to put the decimal point back in. We have 1, 2 decimal places to the right. That means we have to place the decimal point so that there are 2 places also to the right. And we get an answer of 464. I want you to look up at example 1. That answer, 45, was less than our total. Now we are getting an answer that is greater than our total. Why? Because our percent is above 100%. So that's something important to realize. On to example 3. It says find 0.3% of 200. Now this is a percentage that's less than 1, a very, very small percentage. Our process is still the same. So we have 0.3% that we are now going to multiply with this total. So our structure, we're going to plug in our numbers. I want you to write the skeleton out first. You can write just a T. Our is our equal sign. And now let's fill in our numbers. We have our multiplication. So we have 0 and 0.3%. And then our 200 goes in the middle. Now here's the decimal point. We have to move it 2 places and annex a 0, or 2 actually. So our decimal that we are working with is 0 and 3 thousandths. And now we have to multiply this decimal with our 200 to get our answer. So let's do that. We have 200, and then we have a 3, and I'm going to put these 2 zeros in because we need that place value place to figure out where the decimal point goes at the end. But I'm going to ignore the decimal point for now. 0, 0, and a 6. I'm done. I don't need to do all these zeros because when I add it up, it's not going to matter. So I need to figure out how many decimal spots should be in my real answer. Since there are 3 decimal places in that decimal, I need to move and have the decimal point right in front of the 6. And I'm going to annex the 0 to write that number in its formal way. So our part is going to be 6/10. Now notice about this answer, we had a very small percentage that we started with. Our answer is also very small. So it's going to change, the part is going to change depending on the kind of percent that you're working with. If it's a normal percentage, that it's from 1 to 100, your answer is going to be smaller than the number that you are multiplying by. If it's above 100, your answer is going to be above the number that your total is. If it's a very small percentage, your part is going to also be smaller. I'm going to end with a word problem. This word problem we're going to mark up as we read it along. Amy wants to buy a new jean jacket, and the jacket is 35% off. The percent's easy to find. It usually has that percent symbol. So it's the jacket is 35% off the original price. If the original price of the jacket is $70, that's important to know. What is the amount Amy will save? So we're shopping, it's on sale. What is going to be the discount or the money that I don't have to give? So we've marked up our problem. This is a percent problem. We have to find what is 30% of 70. So the original price of the jacket is 70. I'm going to set up my skeleton. Percent of the total is the part. So whenever I'm giving the original price and I want to know the amount that I'm going to save, the discount, that is going to be a percent of a number problem. So I'm going to put 35 in here and 70 for my total. I know that of means multiply and is means equal. So now I have to change this to a decimal. The decimal point in this percentage is hanging out right near the 5. I'm going to move it over 2 places so I have the decimal 35 hundredths. Now I have to multiply 35 hundredths with our total. 70 and 35. Yes, the decimal point's right here. So I'm going to multiply like there's no decimal. We have 0 and then a 35. And then I have a 0 and a 21. When I add all of that up, I'm running out of room, sorry. I'm going to get a 0, a 5, a 4, and a 2. But now I have to do that decimal hop thing. So we're going to hop twice. There's nothing to the right of 70 because remember the decimal point's hanging out right there. So we have to hop only 2 places and we will be saving $24.50 if we buy that jacket. So again, how much I will save if I buy that jacket at that percentage off. We have to find what is 35% of that total, and we get our discount on the money that we don't have to pay Kohl's or Target or wherever we're shopping. So we will be doing more examples of finding percent of a number tomorrow. I look forward to seeing you then. Bye.